much does a motel cost to buy? You know, I bought a couple of hotels, and I'm going to tell you about that right here, right now. So stay with me. Here we go. I'm going to talk about 3 hotels that I purchased, and I'm going to talk about how you may be able to buy your own hotel as well. We're going to talk about how you determine the value of a hotel, and also how you can increase the value of a hotel in terms of repairs, increasing revenue, and other things that can make your hotel more valuable. So let's first talk about how much does a motel cost to buy. I've bought 3. The most recent one I bought was for $1.2 million. It was 60 units, but the upstairs units were very small, so it was about $20,000 a door. This was a rundown hotel that needed to be renovated, and the hotel cost for me in terms of down payment was about 30%. So I put about $360,000 down, and I got private money financing of 70% at 8% interest only for 3 years in order to renovate and bring the hotel up to par. When you're buying a hotel, the biggest and most important thing to look at is what is the cash flow and what is the upside. So in terms of getting money to buy a hotel, a lot of the money that people will give you is based on either what the cash flow is, or if it's a vacant hotel or mostly vacant like mine was, that I'm talking about now, the 60 units, they're going to look at what's the potential. So you're going to put together a business plan. So in that case, it was about $20,000 a door. Now you could see hotels that are 20, 30, 40, 50 million dollars, and you could find smaller hotels like one I bought years ago, which was only 14 units. It was a specialty hotel up in Depot Bay, Oregon. This hotel was run down and needed to be upgraded. So I bought this with my brother, and what we did was we renovated the hotel with new carpet, new furniture, new paint, what we call in Vegas a refresh. So we did a refresh on the hotel, we painted the hotel, we upgraded the hotel, and we ended up renting out rooms for much higher than the prior owner had done. So that hotel cost about $650,000. It was 14-room hotel on the Oregon coast in Depot Bay, and we renamed the hotel. It was called Gracie's, and we changed it to Harbor Lights. If you look on the internet, you could find Harbor Lights Hotel, which was the old hotel. It's since sold a couple times, but it was right by a small harbor. So we liked this hotel because it was right next to the harbor, and it was in a small area where a lot of tourists come. So we had a lot of people that were coming in and out of town for the weekend or vacation. And so that hotel cost around $650,000 with 14 rooms. So you do the math and you can see it was about right around $40,000 a door for that hotel. That hotel also had fireplaces in some of the rooms and a setting right next to the harbor and the boats. So it had a nice ambiance about it and was very desirable for people who are coming away for the weekend just to chill out from Portland or some of the other cities that are nearby. Another hotel I bought, which was years ago, was a property that was basically a hotel that was converted to an apartment building. And so these hotels were built basically for the military, and they had like a check-in, and they were so old, they were built in the 60s, they just converted them to an apartment building. So in that case, that hotel was more based on the cash flow and the cap rate, which I talk about in other videos. For you, in terms of how much you need to buy a hotel, a lot of the pricing depends on the area. You can go down to some places like down in the desert in California where hotels are relatively cheap because nobody really goes there. Those hotels were for people that were working in the oil fields or gas fields or whatever. And what happened was the price of the rooms went down because the traffic didn't come there as much. When you're looking at hotels, be sure to make sure that you have a place where people are going and where you have a rental base. So in some of the hotels today, in some of these areas where they've shut down oil and gas exploration, there's just nobody there to stay in the hotel, or where they bypass the highway. And bypassing the highway, they've got to a point where people don't drive by the hotel anymore. Out in Vegas, there's some bypasses in some of the smaller towns near Lake Mead and some of the other areas just outside of Vegas, where cars used to go by all the time and they would stop and stay in the hotel. But since they built this bypass, cars don't go through the city anymore. So the value of the hotel has gone down because there's not that, I'm going to grab a hotel room, I'm tired type of vibe, right? Your cost to buy a hotel is really going to depend on location, traffic, and occupancy. Location being, is it near a highway? Is it easy to see? Or is it in a town, small town, big town, where there's new hotels and people really don't want to stay in the hotel? Is it run down? Is it nice? Does it have a brand name on it? A Motel 6, a Marriott, a Holiday Inn? Certainly going to be much higher than something that's an off-brand hotel, ABC City Hotel, etc. In terms of occupancy, you'll get records and you'll see how many people go through the hotel, how often they stay there. In terms of expenses, you want to figure that your expenses are going to be at least 50%, because you're going to have not just only people paying rent, but you're going to have expenses like housekeeping, cleaning, maintenance and repair, insurance. Insurance on a hotel can actually be kind of expensive, and other costs that are associated with the hotel. And lastly, when you look at the cost and what it does cost to buy a hotel, you may be able to find that you can get a hotel that's run down where the seller carries the financing, so your down payment may not be as much in terms of getting in. There has been a number of investors, me being one of them, that have taken hotels that are nightly rentals and turned them into weekly rentals. So Mr. Siegel in Las Vegas has Siegel Suites. Siegel Suites, they build basically weekly rentals. So they have bought many hotels in town and converted those to weekly rentals, so people can get in with less money. And that has turned into a very profitable business, because people can't always come up with a month's worth of rent and a huge down payment, but they can get into a weekly and pay a week's worth of rent and a small deposit. So maybe $400 or $500 to get in versus $3,000 to get in. So these have become long-term rentals for a lot of people who pay on a weekly basis. And this is one of the repurposes of people buying hotels, and can create upside in revenue. So when you look at the cost of buying a hotel, you may want to consider, can I repurpose the hotel and use it? In my hotel in Northern California that I was telling you about for $1.2 million, I now have Caltrans workers, construction workers, and other people that are working in the area that are staying there on a weekly basis. Their company's paying for it. So in terms of hotel, don't just think like nightly stay, weekend, but also think, if you furnish these hotels with decent furnishings, that a lot of times people can stay long term. So at the end of the day, your cost to buy a hotel is really going to depend on the occupancy, the vacancy, the cash flow. And don't forget, your cost to watch this video is free. So I suggest you subscribe so you continue to learn how to earn and how to make money. And after you subscribe, I'm going to tell you how to make a hotel improve its income. And we're talking about that right after you subscribe. So when you increase the income of a hotel, one of the ways that you can do that is by, if you go to a weekly like we talked about, you could charge like $10 a week to have a microwave or a refrigerator, okay? You can put in couches and make the bigger rooms suites and charge more money for those. You can also increase your revenue at the front desk with snacks, water, microwavable products. All of those things can increase your revenue, and as well, bringing in groups. So in Bakersfield, California, one time I was down there and every hotel was sold out in Bakersfield, in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, why is that? They have the soccer tournaments, softball tournaments, so-and-so church group. So when you have a hotel, if you get into this business, always look for people that are going to need services and want to get out of town and will need a lot of rooms in a hotel. And you can book your hotel, and instead of renting 1 or 2 or 3 rooms at a time, you can rent 20 or 30 rooms at a time and get maybe a little bit lower price, but you've got a 90 or 95 or 100% occupancy for the weekend or the week. Now remember, your value of your hotel, what it costs to buy, is based on the cash flow and the profit, okay? So always look at the numbers, And if you want to learn where to buy more hotels, you can go to LoopNet. It's probably your quickest and fastest. Put in hospitality and put in search, and you'll see a number of different hotels that are for sale. What you'll also see with those hotels is you'll have different brokers who specialize in hotels. Contact them, they'll send you a list of hotels that may not be on LoopNet that may be available for you to buy. Good luck. I'm Paul Maguire, and join me on the next video where I'm going to talk about more ways to make money in real estate.